Mrs. Perkins won the prize, but I got in the biggest pickle at the county fair.
This is another in the adventures of America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator, Johnny Dollar. At insurance investigation, Johnny Dollar is only an expert. At making out his expense account, he is an absolute genius.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar. To Home Office, Corinthian Liability and Bonding Company, Terminal Building, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of my expenditures during my assignment as bodyguard to Grand Blue Ribbon Champion, Spotted Poland China Hog, Rosie Barron of Iowa. Or How You Cast My Pearls of Wisdom Before Swine. Or Out of the Fire into the Frying Pan. Expense account, item 1. $76.80. Train and bus fare, Hartford to the town of Carver, county seat of Carver County, Iowa. Expense account, item 2. $2.50. 1 Coke, 3 handkerchiefs, a bottle of salt tablets, and sunglasses, with which to combat the Corn Belt heat. Item 3, 6 bits, jitney ride to the Carver County Fairgrounds. Undoubtedly named that because the band I found in the midst of playing its afternoon concert was only fair. Hey, friend.
How's that?
I'm looking for a pig named Rosie Barron of Iowa. Can you tell me where I'll find his cage?
Cage? They don't keep Rollo in no cage.
Rollo? Who's he?
Well, that's short for Rosie Barron of Iowa.
Oh, yeah. Any fool would know that.
Uh-huh.
Can you tell me where he is?
See that building over there, the livestock building?
Yeah.
You'll find Rollo in the swine wing.
Swine wing? Well, that conjures up a dainty picture. A flying pig.
Afraid Rollo won't ever do much flying. Weighs 980.
Oh, well, thanks a lot.
Neighbor.
Yeah?
Why don't you try slipping out of that there coat? You won't find it near as sweaty.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Hiram. Oh, he didn't even wait to be my best friend. Hey!
Wait, I'll come with you, neighbor.
It was 96 in the shade, but things were getting hotter. Shots and screams from the livestock building were the only things that could bring me on the run, with Hiram on my heels.
Hey, what do you suppose that was?
First, I ran into a stranger just outside the entrance.
Get out of the way. Let me out of here. There's loose in there.
Then I ran in through the door.
Somebody do something. Don't just stand there. Where's the sheriff?
Hey, Hiram, what happened?
Well, didn't you see? Didn't you hear? That there woman's Mrs. Tiller. Somebody must have stole her diamond brooch.
Oh, good. I was afraid somebody might have put the snatch on Rollo.
Her husband owns Rollo.
Oh?
They must have been taking her pictures of Mrs. Tiller in the middle of a crowd. And when they had her smiling real pretty, them flash bulbs went off, and then somebody must have reached around from behind her, yanked the brooch, and started shooting a gun in there.
That's a tried and true method of busting up a crowd to help make a getaway. Think anybody saw who did it?
Couldn't. Those flashes would have had them blind as bats for a minute. Oh, there's the sheriff.
What's his name?
Well, yeah, that's Harry Blewett.
Harry Blewett.
Yeah.
Sounds like a slogan from the Republican campaign.
Hey, here, you.
Wait a minute, let go. Well, everybody around here's trying to get my coat off. Come on, Sheriff. Loose the haberdasher.
All right, now, never mind the fancy talk, young fella. I saw something pass between you and one of the thieves just outside the door.
Oh, you're out of your mind. That guy bumped into me. He came crashing out of here, and I happened to be in the way.
I'll bet you happened to be in the way, accidentally on purpose.
Now, that's an early American comeback. But that's the way it was. Now, look, I won't ask you for a search warrant, Sheriff. You think I got the brooch on me? Start looking.
All right, I will.
All right. Yeah, now, in that pocket, cigarettes and a lighter.
I see 'em.
You see? Yeah. And in that pocket, handkerchiefs and salt tablets.
Salt
Mm-hmm. Now, why don't you look in my inside coat pocket? In there, you'll find my wallet and identification.
I was coming to that. Well,
Yeah.
Dollar, insurance investigator,
right.
Hartford, Connecticut. Well, what brought you out here?
I'm a piggy sitter for the Corinthian Liability and Bonding Company. They wrote a policy for $25,000 on your friend Rollo, Rosie Barron of Iowa.
Who ever heard of taking out a $25,000 insurance policy on a hog?
I did. And right now I wish I hadn't. Some people pay high premiums for publicity, Sheriff. And that's what the Blue Ribbon Prime Packing Company is doing in this case. Now, may I have my wallet back? I want to count my money.
Yeah, now, here. All right. Here's your wallet. You may think you're quite the joker, young fella, but I'm telling you right now, I'm going to keep an eye on you.
I got a better idea than that, Harry. If I were you, I'd go looking for that photographer.
Why? What'd he do?
He took the picture. And there's just a chance the thief may be in it.
Say, that gives me an idea.
Sheriff, whoever says you aren't smart makes no mistake. Rollo, the prize porker, wasn't hard to find. First, I followed a few signs. Then it was a matter of closing in on a contented series of juicy, slurping grunts that came blurping up out of a succulent mound of Louisiana yams. Rollo was all fat and a yard wide. His table manners weren't much. He didn't look very smart, but he sure looked healthy. 980 pounds on the hoof. A fine figure of a pig. Pardon me, miss. Could you tell me who's in charge around here?
Well, just for the moment, I am.
Well, I'm trying to find a Mr. Worthington Tiller, who I take it owns this monster.
Monster? What?
What's the matter? Have I said something wrong?
You certainly have. And you've also said it to the wrong person. In case you don't know it, my name is Alva Anderson.
Oh, my name is Johnny Dollar. How do you do? What's all this got to do with Rollo?
Nothing. I just raised Rosie Barron of Iowa from a suckling, that's all.
Kind of got away from you, didn't it? I'm sorry, Miss Anderson. I apologize. To you, too, Rollo.
I'm sorry about the interruption, Miss Anderson. Some fool made off with my wife's diamond brooch. How's this excitement affecting Rollo? I hope he hasn't lost any weight.
Well, he took it very well, Mr. Tiller.
Oh, good.
This gentleman wants to see you, Mr. Dollar.
Oh?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, from the insurance company.
That's
Good,
right.
good. Well, I'm glad you're here. We'll have your picture taken right away with my wife and Rollo. Oh, it'll make grand publicity for Blue Ribbon Prime Packers.
Oh, I don't mind having my picture taken. Just so long as your wife doesn't mind having people pinch her diamond brooches.
Oh, well, now, don't worry about that. It was fully insured.
Oh, that kind.
The thing I want you to worry about is Rollo here. As president of Blue Ribbon, I paid Miss Anderson $10,000 for this magnificent swine, and I don't want anything to happen to it.
You bought him for $10,000, insured him for $25,000, and you don't want anything to happen to him?
Well, I don't mind paying those exorbitant premiums when I get back the kind of publicity this will bring in. I can see it in the papers now. America's fabulous insurance investigator, Johnny Dollar, sent from Hartford, Connecticut to guard the life of that fabulous prize swine, Rosie Barron of Iowa.
Well, Mr. Tiller, I don't mind getting my name in the paper for a pig, just so long as it is not in the obituary column. I just couldn't stand having my tombstone read, Johnny Dollar no longer am. He gave up his life for a great big hand. My tombstone tagline was over the head of Mr. Tiller, but it went over right nicely with Alva Anderson, who paid off with a smile. I parlayed that into a conversation, helped me pass the time while guarding Rollo, the poor man's blue boy. By the time it was over, Alva knew a lot about me, and I knew a lot about pigs. You know, you have beautiful eyes, Alva.
Mr. Dollar, do you know what's really interesting about the origin of swine? Why, it's estimated that the Chinese people domesticated swine about 2900 B.C.
And not only that, but I'm sure you'd like Hartford.
And, Mr. Dollar, you probably don't know this, but a pig is one of the most important food animals. It's an economical converter of grain and other feeds into body tissue, as the products of which furnish meat and fat for human consumption.
Alva, darling, I'll only be in town for a little while.
And not only that, but people who say that pigs are dirty don't know what they're talking about. Why, sanitation is essential to good health, rapid growth and development, and profitable production.
Oh, Rollo, what have you got that I haven't got? I still don't know whether Alva stuck around because of my charms or Rollo's. But she was still there at the changing of the guard when Mr. Tiller, in person, came to relieve me long enough for a trip to the dining hall. And what do you think they had for dinner? What else? Baked ham.
Oh, dinner was wonderful, Johnny.
Coming from you after eating baked ham, that sounds practically cannibalistic.
Oh, Johnny, stop. More coffee?
Nah, I've had it. Alva, you know, there's something I've been trying to say to you for the past 5 hours.
Yes, Johnny?
Well, it's just that, well, I want... What?
Oh, it's the sheriff.
Oh, why doesn't he blow his siren?
Well, I have to be going. It's time to get Rollo ready for the winner's parade past the grandstand. I'll just run along.
I'll just go with you.
Hey, Dollar, I want to talk to you.
Well, I'll see you later, Johnny.
Yeah. Well, Sheriff,
Hey, you being a sort of investigator, Dollar, I knew you'd be interested in my methods.
well, you're sure interfering with mine.
Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, well, do you know what I did?
What?
I found that photographer, had that picture developed, and rushed it up to the state capitol. And they just called me. Dollar, there's a known criminal in that photo. He's got that brooch, and he's on the loose. Do you know what that means?
Yeah. It means that you shouldn't be sitting here talking to me. Who is this villain?
They say he's the... Ooch over here.
Yeah. What?
They say he's known as Little Rocky. Originally hailed from Arkansas. You'd know him if you saw him. He's the fella that bumped into you.
Oh.
I want you to help me look for him.
I take only one job at a time, Sheriff. Right now, I got a pig to mind. And there goes the Grand March. Boy, in case I'm interested later, how much do you pay your special deputies a day?
$7 and expenses.
Sheriff Blewett, I'm afraid that blows it. The Carver County Pickle and Pie winners were lining up to lead the Grand March. By the time I got to the grandstand, down at the tag end of the livestock echelon, there was a shiny white cab and trailer, sporting the markings and mottos of the Blue Ribbon Prime Packing Company. And high upon it, perched on a platform and surrounded by a sturdy iron railing, stood that champion, the pride of the pork set, Rollo, Rosie Barron of Iowa. It was lovely. It was divine. I had a feeling that swelled my heart with pride. Here they were, products of the American home and the American soil. A fanfare of foodstuffs flowing from the horn of plenty. Just because of my association with Rollo, I felt that I was playing some small part in this gallant parade as it was started the first leg of its journey. It was inspiring. It was thrilling. It was... Boing! All of a sudden, it was downright frightening. As Rollo's chariot rolled by, I got an eyeful of its driver. It was my comrade in collision, the guy who had put the snatch on Mrs. Tiller's diamonds, Little Rocky from Arkansas. I added to my treasury of thankless tasks by trying to pin a tackle on a 5-ton truck. I got a door handle with one hand, running more with one foot, and a clout in the teeth from an unexpected adversary.
Knock him loose, Milo. He's on the running board.
Hey, what? I was flat on my back. Everybody was screaming and hollering. The truck went crashing to the fence. And Rollo, Rosie Barron of Iowa, was one little piggy who wasn't staying at home.
In just a moment, the second act of Johnny Dollar. But first, taking in the action from Johnny Dollar, are you? All right, that's good, because staying with CBS is the way you'll head straight for the big return from vacation 8 days from now, Monday the 29th, of Lux Radio Theater and all the other big Monday night CBS favorites. And by staying with CBS, you'll find more action later tonight with Bill Grant of Call the Police and with Sam Spade, who'll be heard from on most of these same CBS stations. Now, with our star, Charles Russell, we return to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Johnny, are you all right? Can you get up?
Oh. Well, the spirit's willing. I'm not sure about my spine.
Here, let me help.
I'm the guy who goes around telling kiddies never to hitch rides on trucks. Well, nobody can say I didn't make a dent in Iowa.
It was wonderful the way you tried. But what are you going to do now?
Right now, I don't know. The only place I can think of at the moment where I might find a hot pig There's a barbecue stand.
Oh, this is no time to be funny.
Well, look, up until now, all the laughs are on me, kid, so let me be the judge, huh?
Well, what are you going to do?
Well, first I'm going to practice my arithmetic and see what adds up. You can't unload a stolen pig in a pawn shop. So, question number one is, where do you unload it? Where would you go?
Well, where would I... Well, I'd never thought of it.
Well, here's what I figured. The Rollo on the hoof is too well known to peddle for anything like the dough he's really worth. I mean, he's not like a big diamond that you can cut up and Or is he? What is the going price on pork?
The market this morning was at $23.50.
Well, that kind of money hardly sounds like Little Rocky's kind of project. But maybe things are tough. By the way, Alva, have you ever been in Arkansas by any chance?
Why do you ask?
Just wondered.
Hey, Dollar, just a minute. I want to talk to you.
Barnyard bloodhound himself. Yeah, Sheriff?
Would you mind, Alfred?
I was just leaving.
How could she be that cold on such a hot night?
Huh?
What's bothering you, Sheriff?
I saw your little performance, Dollar, when you leapt at that truck. Just how hard was you really trying?
How hard was I... I ought to punch you in the nose, badge or no badge.
Now, don't you go getting huffy. I just want you to know that I don't fool easy. When I'm on a case, I'm suspicious of everybody.
Yeah, that must be rough on your wife. How often do you have her in handcuffs?
Huh? Well,
Now, look, Sheriff, all I need from you is the use of a car so I can go looking for old Lardhead.
No, you don't. There's enough missing around here as it is. Rollo, Miss Tiller's jewelry, and I ain't about to add a county vehicle to the mess. And besides, I want to keep an eye on you.
Good. You might learn something. Come on.
Here, wait a minute. Where are you going?
Over to the Ferris wheel. That truck hasn't been off the fairgrounds more than a couple of minutes. I want to get a look at the countryside.
Ferris wheel. Say, that gives me an idea.
I hoped it would. Come on. Say, Sheriff, I don't know very much about this farm-side ferreting racket.
Well, there's more to it than meets the eyes, I can tell you that.
Oh, yeah, I bet there is. Tell me, didn't I see a feed trough on Rollo's truck with a lot of mash in it?
Well, now, let's see. If he ate yams this afternoon, he'd eat mash tonight, all right.
Does mash kick up any kind of a smell?
Oh, sour as swill. But the pig seems to like it.
Uh-huh. How does this sound to you, Sheriff? Suppose right after you take your ride to the top of the Ferris wheel to case the countryside, we were to get ourselves a nice hungry pig.
Say, that gives me an idea. We could take that pig and he could smell that mash in the air and sniff out the trail of that truck.
Sheriff, if you aren't a genius, I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, Shaw.
It was planting time in Iowa that night, at least for ideas, two of which I had planted in the not-too-fertile mind of Sheriff Harry Blewett. And as long as it took us to walk from the trotting track to the Ferris wheel, it came harvest time for notion number one.
Right this way for the big ride on the big wheel. Hurry, hurry, hurry.
Okay, mister, okay. I'm the sheriff. I want you to run me up to the top of that wheel and hold me there long enough for me to get a look around.
I'm going to
When the wheel came to a stop with Harry Blewett sitting in his little cage at the top, I pulled a low trick on a high sheriff. I bought a pink lemonade from the juice stand next to the Ferris wheel, walked over to the motor that rolled the big heap, unscrewed the cap on the gas tank, and gave it a big, long drink. I hope it wasn't doing to people's stomachs what it did to that motor. You might well remember this harmless little deceit the next time you have occasion to get rid of a sheriff.
This kind of publicity is a little too expensive, Dollar. I demand that you do something.
Now, don't worry, Mr. Tiller. I am going to do something.
Yes, well,
And I'll
sure.
thank you to remember that the only ones who stand to get hurt right at this point are the insurance companies that wrote the policies on your pig and your wife's diamond brooch.
Why, Worthington, I hadn't thought of that.
Huh?
Why should we worry? My brooch is insured for way over the value, dear. We can...
Hortense, you keep flapping that loud tongue of yours, and the first thing you know, they'll be accusing us.
Why, they wouldn't dare.
Oh, yes, we would, Mrs. Tiller.
But we're just not the
A
type to...
$15,000 profit on a pig And whatever else you could make on your jewelry might make anybody the type, Mrs. Tiller.
I beg your
Now,
pardon.
see here, Dollar. I've had just about enough of your slanderous implications. I have a few thoughts you might profit by.
Go ahead, Worthington.
I'm always interested in profit, Tiller.
My father had the same thing happen to him back in 1902.
That's right.
Remember, dear?
Yes.
In Nebraska. He bought a prize pig at a fancy price. And then the scoundrel that sold it to him turned around and stole it back. Here, see? What do you think of that?
Would this be a suggestion that we throw the young lady who sold your pig to you in the pokey on the strength of something that happened 37 years ago?
Well,
That's for you to decide, Dollar.
Right.
Just don't say I didn't warn you.
Uh-huh, I see. Yeah. If you don't have an orchid to pin on a young lady, try suspicion. With most of the crowd packed in the grandstand watching the free attractions, I had a good chance to scout the fairground for Alva Anderson, from whom I wanted to learn a little bit more about the habits of not only pigs, but their ex-owners. A trail led me past the home-baked cakes, hybrid corn, the watermelon pickle, tractor and harrow exhibits, and all the way back to where I'd first met her, Rollo's pen in the swine wing of the livestock building. But when I got there, Rollo's cupboard was bare. Alva was leaving for the rear door in the company of a small, tough-looking gent carrying a sack over his shoulder. Name of Little Rocky from Arkansas. I could hardly believe it, but they piled into a car and hauled off up the road. At the risk of adding one last insult to the most recent injury I'd inflicted upon Sheriff Blewett, I stole his car and went dusting up the highway in hot pursuit. There's nothing easier to follow than a red taillight on a clear night. And the bright Mazda Ruby tacked onto the rear of Little Rocky's car led me around the village of Carver and 11 miles out to the pastures to a shack hidden in a grove of elm trees 100 yards off the road. I parked the car and legged it in. From 25 feet away from the house, I could call the roll through an open window. They were all there. Little Rocky, the strong-arm man who would knock me off the running board, Alva Anderson, and last but not least, there was Rollo, all 980 pounds of him, and most important to me, still alive.
Here you are, Milo, you stupid clown.
Oh, stop.
This is all the sweet potatoes that was left. First we go through them, and then we'll be ready for you, Alva.
Oh, but I told you I don't have it.
We'll see about that later. Hey, Milo, don't get the porker excited.
I didn't do
Here,
nothing.
put the sack on the table. Then when we look at him, we throw him out the window and away from him. Now, hurry up.
All right. Well, it ain't in this one. Ain't in this one either. Nope. Ain't in this one.
Shut up, just look.
Well, I just...
And from now on, from you, no thinking. Anybody dumb enough to stash a $30,000 hunk of jewelry and pig food ought to go see a head doctor.
Oh.
Come on.
Through the open window, I was being bombarded by sweet potatoes and facts. While making a getaway after ripping the brooch from Mrs. Tiller's throat, Little Rocky's accomplice had suffered a sudden attack of panic and had hidden the brooch in one of Rollo's lunchtime yams. Whether that yam was inside the piggy or out, they and I were apparently just on the verge of learning.
That does it.
Yes.
Ain't here.
Then that means...
That means your little friend here had a $30,000 snack today, which right now is giving me a great big bellyache. You know all about pigs. What do we do about it?
Well, Rocky was yellow. He wouldn't rub him out.
Look who's talking. Here, take my 38 if you're so tough. Yeah, I thought so. Now shut up.
Well, I ain't killing no piggy with him just standing there looking at me. If he'd only make a break for it, I'd mow him down.
You. Now look, baby, we'll kill him if we got it. We want that chunk of ice and we want it fast. Marlo, tease him into the corner with a sweet potato.
We're throwing them all out the window.
Oh, please, Mr. Rocky,
You
don't.
shut up, too, and sit down. Close your eyes if you want to.
Oh, please, Mr. Rocky.
In the manner of Sheriff Blewett, I had an idea. Given to me, of course, by Rocky.
Here, see.
Alva was sitting in the corner, Rollo was scratching his side by rubbing it against the opposite, and Rocky and Milo were standing shoulder to shoulder in the middle of the room, ready to advance on him. I groped around in the dark until I found one of the yams, and taking the sweet potato delicately in my hand, I tossed it through the window so that it would roll to a point just behind Rocky and his pal Milo.
Oh, look out! Here, shoot him!
Oh, Johnny, help!
Rollo took my bait and and getting to it, knocked his two would-be executioners in a heap on the floor. I took over from there, jumping to the window and applying a kitchen chair dutifully to the prescribed areas, reducing enemies to a state of unconscious surrender. They gave out, Alva gave up, and Rollo gave me a dirty look. Well, Mr. Tiller, here he is, safe and sound, good as new, fat and sassy.
Well, good. Congratulations.
And not only that, but in him someplace, he not only has a good fighting heart, but also that diamond brooch of your wife's.
Oh, yes, very interesting. Well, I'd better go charter a plane. Rollo is due in Kansas City at noon tomorrow.
Oh, but it might upset him, Mr. Tiller. Rosie Barron of Iowa's never flown before. He might lose weight.
Yeah, what's the big hurry to get him to Kansas City? Is he booked for a personal appearance?
Oh, no. No, hardly that. He's due to be slaughtered at a special ceremony. All the plans are made. Oh, I wouldn't want to disappoint my boys. They've been looking forward to this.
Oh.
How do you like that? Why, it's almost murder. Poor Rollo.
Oh, Johnny.
Come on, let's get out of here, Alva. Gosh, who would have ever thought I, Johnny Dollar, would ever gotten so attached to a pig? Expense account, item 4, $3.50. Dinner for Alva and me. A vegetable dinner, by the way. And speaking of that, reminds me, if you find a $30,000 brooch in a pork chop, it'll only mean that the Blue Ribbon Prime Packing Company didn't have much luck when they went looking for it. Expense account item 5, $20. One new gold-plated badge, which I sent to Sheriff Harry Blewett, appeasement, for having stranded him atop that Ferris wheel, for stealing his car, and for suggesting that he use a hungry pig for a bloodhound. Oh, the porter followed the mash scent, all right. Next morning, they found Sheriff Blewett searching an old mash factory 8 miles the wrong side of town. Item 6, $76.80. Bus and train fare, Carver, Iowa, back to Hartford, Connecticut. But I'm still wondering every morning at breakfast time, what else can you eat with eggs? Except ham or bacon or sausage. And maybe you don't think that's a problem, having known a certain champion named Rollo, Rosie Barron of Iowa. Expense account total, $1,463. Yours, truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Norman MacDonald and stars Charles Russell with script by Paul Dudley and Gil Dowd. Featured in the cast were Parley Bear, Sammy Hill, and John Daner, with Junius Matthews, Ann Morrison, Jack Crucian, and Paul Dubov. Pinto Colvig was Rollo. The special music is written and conducted by Leith Stevens. Be sure to be with us at the same time next week when another most unusual expense account is handed in by...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Your hit parade on parade will be back tonight in the familiar CBS Jack Benny time with the great tunes of August 12 years ago. Sweetly Lonnie and Where or When. Many another still green in your memory will be among the hits you will hear. Speaking of hits, put down August 29th this year in your little book. That's when Arthur Godfrey and his talent scouts, the stars of Lux Radio Theater, My Friend Irma, and Bob Hawke return to join Inner Sanctum. So make your Monday nights a regular date with CBS. This is Roy Rowan speaking. Stay tuned now for your hit parade on parade. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
I always say if you take a trip halfway around the world, you've got to expect you'll get your ticket punched.
This is another in the adventures of America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator, Johnny Dollar. At insurance investigation, Johnny Dollar is only an expert. At making out his expense account, he is an absolute genius.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the Constant Sun Trading Company, Cairo, Egypt. And may I say, this is an unexpected pleasure. The one thing I didn't expect to bump into during this case was somebody to pay the bill. It started out being my answer to a fire alarm rung 12,000 miles away by an old wartime friend. It wound up being a game of who gets killed first, with a bunch of guys who suddenly declared themselves a small peacetime war. The difference of opinion arose over a little hassle I might call the expiring nickels and the Egyptian jackpot. Expense account, item 1, $2,200. Air transportation from little old Connecticut to big old French Indochina, or specifically Hartford to Halfpenny. That's where I got off the plane to take a breather. But after smelling the air and getting hit in the face with a bucket full of lukewarm raindrops, I got right on another plane bound for my destination, where I'd been summoned by an urgent cable, Calcutta. We took off on instruments in the downpour of a drenching monsoon. It was like climbing up a waterfall, blindfolded. We got chased up to 20,000 feet, clear up into the penthouse, by a batch of black-hearted thunderheads laced with lightning. And there we stayed, sucking oxygen for 9 dreary hours, and waiting for the moment we'd get off our island in the sky. Expense account, item 2, 3 rupees. Transportation from airport to the address of old friend who had summoned me. A place you'd never expect to find trouble. In church. And what a church. 2 Quonset huts on Chowrangi Road. A couple of dozen wooden benches, a retired USO Hammond organ, and most important, its pastor. A guy I'd met when I was calling the CBI Theater my home away from home, Chaplain Joe Blessing.
Johnny, it's good to see you.
Long time, Joe. Too long. Well, you haven't changed a bit since you were passing out those SL slips to unhappy GIs. So you did decide to stay out here after all.
Yeah? Yeah, I decided the East Indian brand of soul needed a little more saving than the kind I used to know back in Magnolia, Tennessee. Now, come on in the office, Johnny. It was good of you to come right over. You must be wondering why you did.
Well, your cable did start to worry you too, Joe. You know, when an ex-soldier gets the trouble call from a chaplain, something's really wrong. What's up?
Sit down, sit down. Johnny, tell me, how'd you like to do some work in my department?
Wait a minute. I wouldn't know where to start.
I'm asking you to save a man's soul and to save another man's life while you're doing it.
Why me, Joe?
Why did I ask you to come all the way from Hartford, Connecticut? Well, Johnny, the ways are devious. There wasn't time for me to do anything else.
Huh?
If I'd gone through the proper channels here, if I'd become involved with all the inevitable red tape, well, there just wasn't time. Johnny, there's a man in Cairo waiting to be executed at dawn day after tomorrow for a murder he didn't commit. And here in Calcutta is a man who not only witnessed that crime, but has in his possession the evidence that can save that man from swinging.
Uh-huh. Now, who is this man on the flying rope end?
Lionel Brooke Nichols. He's the president of a vast enterprise called the Constant Sun Trading Company. Now, Johnny, I wasn't ignoring the fact that you work for a living. I'm sure that if you're successful, you can name your own price. This is not a colloquialism, Johnny, but Mr. Brooke Nichols has nothing but money.
I didn't realize that such big men got into such big trouble.
Oh, he didn't get into it all by himself.
Huh?
Oh, no. No, this particular big man had the bad luck to have a fun-loving cousin who'd like to see him out of the way, and the faster the better.
Name of?
Miles Atkinson. He must be some sort of big wheel in the Egyptian government. That's all I know about him. Except that to gain control of the Constant Sun Company, he would move heaven and earth to see Brooke Nichols dead.
Well, I don't care what he does with the earth, but I guess I can't stand by and let him mess around with your heaven. Now, let's get down to cases. What about this dude here in Calcutta, the witness with the evidence?
Well, his name's William Briggs. He's a very sick man, Johnny. Mm-hmm. Knowing that he might die soon, and it looks like he might. He's had a sudden rush of conscience to the mouth. He wants to talk. Evidently, he's decided that since it's too late to save his body, he'd better do a quick job on his soul.
And I nurse him to Cairo, is that it?
Told. I'm sending a young assistant of mine who'll take that job off your hands. I think you'll like him, Johnny. Now, I want you to get Briggs to the right officials. Arrangements have been made for an ambulance to meet you in Cairo, and, well, we've chartered a cargo plane to take you there. Now, the pilot says he can get you there by tomorrow night.
Well, I spent so much time in the air getting here that it shouldn't make any difference, but why a cargo plane? Why not a passenger plane? They have nice soft seats.
Well, Johnny, the airlines refuse to transport a leper.
Heaven sure has some good salesmen on the road, and Chaplain Joe Blessings is one of the best. Before I knew it, a big Horizons Unlimited plane was lifting off the runway at Calcutta, and I was in it. Sitting on a suitcase, it looked like I'd never have time to unpack. The invalid Briggs was forward, being bedded down under the gentle hand of Chaplain Joe's assistant, Frankie.
Well, that is done. And I give up me Saturday afternoon at Belmont Park for this.
You're in luck, Frankie. Think of all the losers you missed betting on.
Mr. Dollar, you have the philosophy of a man who has never enjoyed the exquisite thrill of losing his last $2 upon a horse who is retarding the improvement of the breed.
Young man, you've never heard of the Bluegrass branch of the Dollar family? Kentucky, sir.
Mr. Dollar, sir, if it were not for a certain horse from Kentucky named Breezy Boy who ran a very poor eighth at Rockingham, I would not only be a Kentucky colonel, I would be a Kentucky general, passing the time of day with my esteemed co-general, 3-star Hennessy. Yes.
What's this? Whose briefcase?
Briggs. He wants you should take care of it.
And what's in it?
What's in it should be in a holster.
How do you know?
Mr. Dollar, I got a sense of feel. Besides, I looked. It's a Luger.
A Luger, huh? Yeah. Off that, I'd say we are now in possession of the evidence. The murder weapon, in person. Exhibit A. Oops. Still loaded. With Exhibit A making an arsenal out of my right coat pocket, we touched wheels at Bombay for 3 hours and fuel, and then hiked back up for the run across the Arabian Sea. We made landfall high on the coast of Saudi Arabia, and the freight of the Cuff shoreline led us on to the Queen of Sheba's old hometown, Aden, where we sat down again for service, airplane and personal. Frankie and I got our sick man Briggs out and into the shade of a hangar, figuring he'd use a breath of fresh air. But he didn't find it in that sun-baked hellhole. The grubby little ground crew burned up 4 valuable hours, taking their own unsweet time servicing the ship. That left us just 8 hours to get Briggs and his evidence up to Cairo, and left me almost enough time to save Mr. Brooke Nichols from taking the rope ride. Estimated time of arrival, midnight. Time of execution, 6 a.m. And I've learned that British officials are hard to wake up. Pilots stood the ship straight on its tail and made a fighter takeoff getting out of there. We were 40 minutes out of Aden, about 5,000 feet above the Red Sea, when we ran into what I've learned to expect in my business, the unexpected.
Hello. Could either of you gentlemen tell me where I pay my fare?
Well, where did you come from?
Hey, a walk-on like this I have not seen since Minsky.
It's all right, gentlemen. You can pop your eyes back in. You've seen a woman before.
Oh, I've never scooped one up out of the sky before.
Could it be she's an angel?
What are you doing here?
I'm afraid I'm what you'd call a stowaway.
How'd you get aboard?
When the plane was empty, I locked myself in the powder room. I'm sorry I had to do it this way, but I have to get to Cairo immediately. The next airline flight doesn't go out till 11 tonight.
I should write to the captain and have him turn around and dump you back.
Please, don't. I'm perfectly willing to pay my way.
Don't worry. We can't spare the time.
Mr. Dollar, there are only certain things which make air travel a pleasure to certain people. With me, that is a stewardess, and I would be glad to brief her about her duties.
You go check the patient, Frankie. I'll check Miss Stowaway.
That's what comes from always being only an assistant.
I noticed that poor man on the stretcher when you took him out. Who is he?
Never mind. What's your name?
Fate Fabian.
What's so important you've got to get to Cairo this way?
Sorry, Mr. Dollar, that's a secret.
It's also a secret how you get into that tight little dress you're wearing.
I'm glad you like it.
A dress, yes. Secrets, no. When I find myself in an airplane with a stowaway, I smell trouble.
That trouble you smell costs $85 an ounce.
Now, listen, save your sharp talk for a cocktail lounge. Don't waste it here. You must think I'm kidding. This is serious. You're flying across international boundaries. Now, who are you?
I told you. Fate Fabian. Here. Here is my passport, and here is money. How much?
Okay. We'll call it a sort of bond to ensure your good behavior. $500.
All that for good behavior? That's awfully high.
So is this airplane. If you don't like it, jump. She didn't jump. And, after 7.5 more droning hours, I was glad of it. Fate Fabian was all woman, all beautiful. All in a pretty nice relief from watching the time run through my wristwatch. She spent most of the trip sharing my suitcase with me. But once I looked up at her, when she was silhouetted against the window, posed against that moonstruck Egyptian sky. And it was almost worth the trip, the way she looked, wearing those stars in her hair. Just about then, a vague glow on the horizon took over where my conscience left off. We were coming into Cairo, and the problem of landing 50,000 pounds of airplane replaced the problem of landing 120 pounds of woman. I've never learned how to hold back a sigh of relief when I hear those big tires take a hole in the runway. And I sighed another one when I saw an ambulance standing by at the parking ramp. By the time the loading platform was pushed into place and the door opened, the ambulance was backed up, ready to receive Briggs.
Oh, are you the chap bringing a Mr. Briggs in from Calcutta?
Yeah, that's right. Never mind the stretcher. He's on one.
Oh, right, sir. We'll fetch him off then. Come along, Roscoe. Come in.
You all ready to go, Frankie?
Mr. Dollar, watch your language. That is not the thing to say about Mr. Briggs. But he will look at home in that ambulance.
Now then. Oh, congratulations upon the trip, Governor.
Thanks.
Take the other end, Roscoe. We'll hoist the poor chap out of it. All right, here we go now.
Hey, I'd better check with the pilot, Frankie. Give these guys a hand, will you? They may need it getting down that ramp.
Anything that moves me toward the end of this is a pleasure. Easy now. You want me to help lifting him in? Hey, Mr. Dollar, these guys ain't just plain ambulance drivers.
In just a moment, we return to the second act of Johnny Dollar. But first, whatever you're planning to do over the Labor Day weekend, be sure to plan to listen over most of these same stations tonight to a wonderful new show on CBS. It's Horace Height's original Youth Opportunity Show, a full half hour of fun and excitement. You'll get the thrill of a lifetime hearing talented young Americans get the chance of a lifetime. Don't forget, Sunday night with Horace Height, the Horace Height Original Youth Opportunity Show, starting tonight on CBS.
Tune in this fall for the shows that you love best of all. Listen carefully, here's the address. It's CBS.
Now, with our star, Charles Russell, we return to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
I had made 4 steps toward the cockpit when I heard Frankie yell, and a half a step back toward the door when I heard the shots. By the time I got to the top of the ramp, the ambulance was about 20 yards away. And pitted against that distance were two overlapping thoughts. One, the way to stop, or at least slow it down, was to puncture the rear tires. Two, the tool at hand was that loaded Exhibit A Luger that should have been in my pocket. It wasn't there. I looked around, didn't see it. But I thought I knew where to find it. Come on. Come on, open up. Or I'll put this fire extinguisher to that door. And if your head isn't in the way, I'll get that neck.
Wait a minute.
Moral, don't use the same hiding place twice.
It could be that I wasn't hiding.
And it could be that that purse is now holding a Luger. Give me it. Yeah. Now all I need is to hear you say you don't know how it got there.
I don't know how it got there.
That does it. Come on, you're coming with me. Come on, get going.
Ouch! You don't have to do that.
What I did have to do was dig up some transportation. It turned out to be a taxi whose driver had slept through the excitement and therefore was the only one at the hack stand. I think he was still asleep when I gave my unwilling companion an ungentlemanly shove into the rear seat. And we left. Nobody in full control of their faculties could drive the way he did. He knew he had a horn, but somebody had forgotten to tell him about brakes. All I had to go on was the direction in which that ambulance had taken off, straight toward Cairo. So that's where we went, straight toward Cairo. Come on, whatever your name is, sit up and start your story.
My name is Faith Fabian.
That I couldn't be less interested. What I want to know is where those friends of yours take Briggs and Frankie.
I have no friends.
I can believe that. Whoever those thugs are, where are they?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Now, don't be coy. You and those mugs in that ambulance add up, that's all. Doesn't take any brains to figure out what you're all working for the same guy.
What same guy?
Miles Atkinson. The guy that's trying to keep witness Briggs and his evidence from saving Brooke Nichols from hanging about 5.5 hours from
You're being stupid.
Maybe so. All I know is somebody got away with a witness, and I find the evidence sharing your purse with your eyebrow
I found
pencil.
it on the plane. Somebody must have dropped
Oh,
it.
don't give me that. You can probably recite the serial number. Okay. You wanted the murder weapon? I'm going to be a real nice guy, just long enough to give it to you. And then I'm going to give you to the police. They have a nice little game they play with combinations like that. Hello. Are you the chief inspector?
I am.
Now, this girl keeps telling me her name is Faith Fabian.
How do you do, Inspector? I've looked forward to this.
I'll bet. Well, my name is Johnny Dollar. I'm looking for somebody who knows the Brooke Nichols case.
Well, you certainly came to the right place. I know about the Brooke Nichols case.
Well, that's what I'm here about. You can bust that case wide open, Inspector. Brooke Nichols is innocent. Now, here. This Luger is all the evidence we'll need.
Thank you, Mr. Dollar.
Oh, one thing you'll still have to help me find, though, is a man named Briggs. He was an eyewitness to the murder. I brought him all the way from Calcutta, and somebody put the snatch on him at the airport. Not only that, they grabbed the guy who was helping me.
Oh, yes. Yes, that would be the obstreperous young gentleman you call Frankie.
Well, you know where he is?
Oh, yes, indeed I do.
Then he's all right.
Yes. If you could call a man all right when he's just been arrested for the murder of Mr. Briggs.
Murder?
Yes. Mr. Briggs was shot in the ambulance that took him from your plane.
Hey, what is this?
This is a very good time for both of you to remain perfectly still, Mr. Dollar. After you raise your hand, Miss Fabian, you needn't bother. There's hardly enough of that dress to conceal all of you, let alone the weapons.
Thank you.
Mr. Dollar, this is what a romanticist would call a poetic injustice. You see, this Luger, the evidence, as you call it, happens to belong to me.
But that's the murder weapon. Who are you, anyway?
Chief of Inspectors Miles Atkinson.
Miles Atkinson? Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
I fly 5,000 miles from Calcutta to put you in the hands of the police. And you turn out to be the police.
Yes. Bloody convenient, isn't it?
Not for me, it isn't.
Get steady, old boy. You know,
This gun was probably the most fortunate purchase I ever made in my life. First, it killed a man who was in my way. Then, because it disappeared, it made it possible for me to establish false evidence, ostensibly proving that my esteemed cousin, Brooks Nichols, was guilty of the murder. And now, his death by hanging will place in my hands the controlling interest of the Constant Sun Trading Company.
Quite a bargain.
Thank you, Mr. Dollar.
Not you, the gun.
Which I shall now put to its final use. And after it is disposed of you two, I shall dispose of it.
That was the prettiest confession I've ever heard. I'm surprised that a chief inspector and bargain hunter should sell himself out so cheaply.
What do you mean by that?
That the confession was complete, voluntarily made in front of witnesses, and that we are leaving with it, and that you are coming with us.
Hey, Fate, baby, take it easy. No sense going on the make for a hot bullet.
Mr. Dollar is right. I warn you, the one who moves first dies first.
Very well.
Fate.
One step closer, Miss Fabian.
I'm not afraid of you.
All right, you asked for it. Now take it. What is this?
No use, no bullet.
No, you can't stop me now.
Take
You
cover,
won't.
Fate. When ladies stay so far, now it's boys'
Look
time.
out, he's throwing the gun.
He did throw the gun, but not at me. At the single light fixture in the middle of the ceiling. And when that went out, so did Atkinson. Out through the door. And the case was on. It was no joke. He knew where the light switches were, and as he went racing past them, he switched them off. It was like night flying without the benefit of carrots in my diet. Chasing him down those long, empty, echoey corridors and up the stairs to the roof. At the door to the roof, I threw on our brakes by throwing an arm around Fate. She was soft, and it was dark, but I was scared. I figured Atkinson might have picked up a weapon on the way. And that turned out to be an underestimate. What he had picked up was a fire hose. When we stepped through that door, we got hit by a big fat bolt of liquid lightning. A couple of 100 pounds of water backed up by a couple of 1,000 pounds of pressure. It felt like a salmon swimming upstream to spawn. Over at the edge of the roof, braced against the low parapet, was Atkinson, using all his weight to keep the writhing nozzle from flipping him around. He was just one man on a fire department's errand. Hey, wait, I'll move around the other side. Try and throw that water off you. Get over that valve. See it?
Where?
That wheel over there. The end of the hose he ain't on. Turn off the water. Come on. Quick.
I see it. I'll get it.
Instead of dropping away to a dribble, the hose suddenly snapped its muscle up to its hardest as a driving surge of water went through it. And before Atkinson could get himself untangled from the canvas and rubber snake, it snapped him over the parapet, off the roof, and high into the night. Hey, Fate! Turn off that water!
What happened?
Oh. Poetic justice, baby. That fire hose threw Mr. Chief Inspector Atkinson off the roof. And he made a hole in one. Right through that gallows down there. The same gallows from which Brooke Nichols was supposed to hang in a few hours.
That's horrible. Let's move away from here.
Hey, wait a minute. That's not like you. After all, you're the gal who turned that water up instead of down.
You wanted it done right. Why didn't you send a plumber?
I won't ask you whether you meant it that way or not. As far as I'm concerned, it turned out just jolly this way. Oh, and while I'm at it, I'd like to thank you for taking such a brave chance with my life downstairs in the office.
Oh, really, Mr. Dollar? I knew that gun wasn't loaded. I unloaded it myself back in the powder room in the airplane. Just before you accused me of trying to steal it, remember?
The next time I take a shower, I promise to wash my mouth out with soap. But now I figure it's also about time you came clean. Really, now, who are you?
I'm sorry. My name is still Fate Fabian.
All right, you've made a sale. Your name is Fate Fabian. What's your interest in this case?
No interest at all. It's just part of my job. They do hire people to police the police, you know. I happen to be one of those people. Do you want to see my credentials?
Your credentials look all right to me, baby. We got off the subject, off the roof, and into the problem of getting Brooke Nichols off the end of a rope. After going through those motions, and that gal made all the motions, including retrieving young Frankie from the pokey, I kissed Fate Fabian goodbye, just for luck. And receiving no interest on that investment, we headed back to the airfield. By the time that fireball Egyptian sun had poked its top rim over the leftover GI issue hangars at the east end of the field, the plane was serviced and panting to pry open the sky. Came the time to board ship, came a visitor.
I say, oh, boy, is Mr. Dollar about?
Yeah, about right here.
Oh, splendid, splendid. I'm Lionel Brooke Nichol.
Congratulations.
I suppose you know you saved my life.
Yeah, with a lot of help, yeah.
Well, I should like to make it up to you somehow. Is there anything I can do?
Well, besides paying my expenses.
Oh, naturally, naturally. Send your chit to the Constant Sun Trading Company. You'll be paid post-haste. But beyond that.
Well, could do something for the guy who got me out here. Back in Calcutta, I have an old army buddy named Chaplain Joe Blessings. He runs a church.
Oh, splendid, splendid. Perhaps I could donate a stained glass window or anything you suggest.
Did you say anything?
Yes, anything.
Okay. Well, look, Chaplain Joe Blessings doesn't need a stained glass window because he hasn't got any place to put it. What he does need is a new church. A real one with steeples and all that.
Oh. All right, then. Very well. Done.
Expense account, item 3. Same as original entry. Transportation from the land of the Sphinx to the land of the free by way of Calcutta, where I delivered a happier, though wiser, Frankie. Received the blessings of Chaplain Joe Blessing and ordered a custom-made lightweight pearl-handled blackjack in blue suede and inscribed to Fate Fabian, with a hope that you will never fail to supply the black to go with this blue. Love, J.D. Well, I guess that's all. Oh, expense account total. Oh, wait, there's one more. Expense account item 4, $10. Paid to Cassidy's Pawn Shop, Hartford, Connecticut, for purchase of one Hawk Air Medal. After all that flying, I thought I deserved one. Now, expense account total, $5,350.40. If you don't think the founder of your company is worth that, kindly suggest someone who might. Yours, truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, was produced and directed by Gordon T. Hughes and stars Charles Russell, with script by Paul Dudley and Gil Dowd. Featured in the cast were Georgia Ellis, Jack Edwards, Parley Bear, and Paul Dubov. The special music is written and conducted by Leith Stevens. Be sure to be with us again when Johnny Dollar returns to the air after a short vacation. Listen on Saturday, October 1st, when another most unusual expense account is handed in by
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Next week at this time, on many of these same stations, Eve Arden will bring you the madcap adventures of America's favorite schoolmistress, our Miss Brooks. Miss Arden, who has been heard later on Sunday evening for more than a year, is moving to this new time, and CBS cordially invites you to hear her and her famous brand of comedy. To make sure, consult your local newspaper listings next Sunday for the new time, when you'll hear Eve Arden and our Miss Brooks. Now, stay tuned for Your Hit Parade on Parade, which follows immediately over these same CBS network stations. This is Roy Rowan speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.